Today's webinar is talking about EVMS requirements, resources, and an EVMS SaaS solution. So we'll get into those topics here in a minute. I wanted to just preface this by saying that this presentation is was really put together for organizations or individuals that don't currently have an EVM reporting requirement on their contract, or they're proposing for an opportunity, a government opportunity, in which they anticipate having an EVM requirement on their contract. So if you have a lot of experience in EVM, some of this information is probably going to be a little bit repetitive for you, but hopefully there'll be some new information for you. If not, if you're relatively new to EVM or new to some of the things we're going to present today, then hopefully you'll find this to be very informative. If you have any questions, I will be trying to keep an eye on the questions box. So in the original login area, or in the little panel on the right-hand side that you should see on the right-hand side of your screen, is a questions box, and you can ask questions through that, and I'll try and keep an eye on it. Your microphone is on mute. At the conclusion of the webinar, which I anticipate to take about 45 minutes, I will open up and take everyone's microphone off mute. So if you have any questions, you certainly can ask them at that time, or you can ask as we go along. So why don't we get into the meat of the subject here. There we go. So let me just give you a quick commercial announcement here. So KM Systems Group, KMSG, we were founded in 2003. We are a strategy and technology consulting firm for and support a number of government agencies directly, as well as another number of government contractors that have worked with those government agencies. Our real core capabilities are around earned value management. We are a PMI registered education provider. We have a lot of experience with integrated program management, EVMS validation, and the implementation of earned value management systems and business process improvement. So that gives you a little bit of background on who we are. So now let me get on to the agenda. Having trouble advancing the screen. Anyways, we got it now. So here's the agenda. So we're going to talk a little bit about EVMS requirements and proposing for contracts that have EVMS requirements. An EVMS overview, specifically looking at people, processes, and tools. And then we're going to talk about an EVM SaaS solution. So for those of you who don't have any familiarity with EVM or earned value management systems, I'll throw this out here. For others, this is going to be pretty much old hat for you. But an earned value management system is an integrated set of tools, applications, documented business processes, and professional practices. So a lot of times when people talk about earned value management systems, they think about the tools or the applications only. But really, the way the government looks at it, and when they specify an earned value management system on your contract, it is the tools, but more importantly, the documented business processes and the professional practices that go around those tools. Earned value management, in contrast, is a project management methodology for accurately measuring the actual amount of work that is accomplished on a project. So it integrates the scope or the work that we plan to accomplish, the project schedule, and the cost. So earned value management as a concept integrates those elements. An earned value management system is a combination of tools, business processes, and professional practices. Particularly in the government space, what we usually talk about is the ANSI EIA 748 EVMS standard, or in short, EIA 748. So when we talk about a system being compliant, and what is referenced in the government regulations that we'll look at in a minute, is compliance with the the ANSI EIA 748 standard. Usually we hear people talk about the 32 guidelines of the EVMS standard. So there are 32 guidelines, which we won't get into today. Those are organized into 5 primary process areas: organization, planning, scheduling, budgeting, accounting considerations, analysis and management reporting, revisions and data revisions. Now, from a government agency standpoint, one of the overriding set of policies was put forward by the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, and it's known as Circular A11 Part 7, and it is the government policy statement which requires EVM. It does require compliance with the ANSI EIA 748 standard. It specifies that this is for major capital investments, specifically for development programs. It's not for operations and maintenance programs or steady state efforts. Solicitations for contracts or in-house charter must contain the FAR EVM provisions for pre-award or post-award IBRs. So then let's talk about the FAR regulations. So the FAR regulations are the guiding regulations for what is incorporated into, or the regulations for incorporating EVM into solicitations and into contracts. So an earned value management is required for major acquisitions for development in accordance with OMB Circular A11 we just talked about. Offer proposes to use a system that has not been determined to be in compliance with the ANSI standard. The offeror shall submit a comprehensive plan for compliance with these EVMS standards. As at a minimum, contracting officers shall require contractors to submit EVMS monthly reports. EVMS requirements will be applied to subcontractors using the same rules as applied to the prime contractors. Usually we call this flow down. So the regulations that apply to the prime contractor, if you're a subcontractor on that contract in which it has an EVM requirement, then you also will have an EVM requirement. Okay. The Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations Supplement, the DFARS, echoes these same kind of statements, but there is a little bit more detail for the Department of Defense. So if you're proposing on a contract of greater than $50 million in total life cycle, you must provide documentation that you either have a certified compliant EVMS, or you have to provide an implementation plan for implementing a compliant EVMS system. If the contract is less than $50 million, you must provide some documentation that you have an ANSI compliance system. So effectively you're self-certifying that you have reviewed your system versus the 32 guidelines of the ANSI standard, and you have a documented system description, or what's known as a system description document. The DFARS goes on to say in another regulation some additional details. It talks to system requirements, compliance with the EIA 748 standard, that the information provided must be timely, reliable, and verifiable. So the IPMR reports, which we'll talk about in a minute, Integrated Program Management Reporting, must be timely, reliable, and verifiable. And it must be either certified or approved by a cognizant federal agency. You must notify them of any changes to your EVMS system, and it requires, this particular regulation requires that an integrated baseline review or an IBR be conducted no later than 180 days after contract award. One of the other important things that is echoed in several other regulations is system deficiency. So this falls under the DCA regulated business systems. So if the EVMS is found to be deficient in any way, the contracting officer can withhold payments. Typically, those payments are between 5 and 10%, and there have been some very notable cases of contracting officers withholding payments on contracts for deficient EVM systems. Now I want to talk a little bit about, that focuses a lot more on the Department of Energy, on the Department of Defense, but I want to talk about the Department of Energy now. So the Department of Energy Order 413.3b has similar type language. $20 to $50 million in total project cost, the contractor must self-certify. $50 to $100 million in total contract cost must be certified by the Project Management Support Office, or the PMSO, with the Office of Engineering and Construction Management, also now known as the Office of Acquisition Project Management, supporting. Greater than $100 million, these are certified by, well, I should have changed the slide, but it's the Office of Acquisition and Project Management. Talk about the DOD IPMR reporting requirements. The DOD changed the reporting requirements. There was 5 formats for contract performance reports before, and a separate format for the Integrated Master Schedule. Now they're all under one group. So it's called the Integrated Program Management Reporting, and here's the data item description number here. And there are 7 formats: work breakdown structure, organizational categories, baseline, staffing, explanations, and problem analysis, also known as the variance analysis, integrated master schedule, and then the history or forecast file. So the first couple, format 1 or 2, are pretty much the same as they were before. It arranges the information of your project performance and your earned value management data based on either the work breakdown structure or looking at it from an organizational category or who's responsible for doing the work. Format 3 is the baseline. Format 4 lists its staffing. Format 5 is the variance analysis. So if you break one of the performance thresholds, your control account manager is required to write a variance analysis, and you're required to submit that variance analysis to the government. Integrated Master Schedule, this is different in the sense that this was a separate report before, but now it's included in the overall format. What that does is it ensures that the EVM data is tightly aligned with the schedule or project schedule information. The Format 7 is generally an annual report that looks back at the history or the trend. So here we see how those different formats are normally presented or required on your contract. So if your contract, the second column from the left, if your contract is greater or equal to $50 million, all of these requirements come into play. You have to have a certified system. You must be compliant with the ANSI standard. You have to do all of the formats, and you have to conduct an integrated baseline review with the government. Between $20 and $50 million, you're not required to have a certified system, but it is required to be compliant. Typically, you're required to do formats 1, 5, 6, and 7, but the others are optional, and you are required to do an IBR. Now, you can have an EVM requirement on a contract under $20 million. It's up to the contracting officer and the acquisition organization and the program management organization to decide whether or not they deem that contract to require EVM reporting. So I'll talk a little bit about certification. So if you do have a contract over $50 million at the DOD that requires certification, there are a number of things from a very high level standpoint that the government's going to be looking at, and the DCMA or whoever the cognizant federal agency is. One is that senior management is a champion of the EVMS process. One of the best ways to do that is for management to be requesting the information and to be engaged with the review of that information and engaged in project reviews. So that's one of the best ways that management can demonstrate that they are in fact a champion and also help drive the process. EVMS processes and procedures must comply with the ANSI standard. The project management team is actually applying the EVMS processes, so we aren't just generating the reports, but we are in fact actually acting upon that information. And that EVMS data is reliable and aligns with the program's technical schedule and cost baselines. Now, one of the last slides in this section, I want to talk about certification and surveillance authority. Now there are a number of different organizations that have authority. On the DoD side, there are really two primary agencies or organizations. PARCA, which is the Performance Assessment and Root Cause Analysis Organization. So this is a new organization that was started up probably 3 or 4 years ago now. And they're responsible for DoD EVM policy and guidance. So they effectively own policy and guidance. They also maintain the EVM Central Repository. So you may be required on your DoD contract if it's if it is an ACAT 1, I believe it's ACAT 1 and ACAT 2 project, to report your EVM reporting to the Central Repository. The DCMA, in contrast, is responsible for certification and surveillance. So if you're required to have a certified system, the DCMA is the one that's going to come out, and there's a whole process for certification and so forth. The DCMA is going to be the one that comes out to do that. They're also responsible for surveillance, and they're looking for two things. One is that the information that comes out of the system is reliable and accurate, and that the system continues to comply with the ANSI standards. So those are the two primary organizations you run into in the Department of Defense. In the Department of Energy, the Acquisition and Project Management Organization is responsible for both of those functions. So it's responsible for DOE policy, Department of Energy policy in relation to earned value management systems, but also for certification and surveillance based on the regulations we talked about before. Now, one of the interesting things that both organizations are moving to, both DCMA and Department of Energy, in regards to surveillance, is what they call risk-based or data-driven surveillance versus calendar-driven approach. So they're automating processes, they're automating systems to analyze the data, look for data anomalies, look for reporting that indicates high risk or high-risk systems that require additional surveillance, and are acting upon that surveillance on that basis, versus the way they used to do it, which was based on a calendar-driven approach, which is, we are going to conduct surveillance on your program every quarter or every half or once a year or what have you. So they're really moving to much more of an automated process, and this impacts organizations that are looking to report that information, because your data is going to have to be that much cleaner. Otherwise, it's going to be flagging potential issues. Whether or not those are real issues or not, we want to make sure that our information is accurate as possible. So that covers EVMS requirements and proposals. I want to talk a little bit about earned value management system, particularly people, processes, and tools. So we talked about an earned value management system earlier. I won't go through this again, but it's more than just the tools, right? It's the people, processes, and so forth. Here's a picture at the bottom of this next slide, which talks to what we view, what KM Systems Group views as a standard earned value management system architecture. And I'll walk through this just a little bit. On the left-hand side is your project scheduling. So this is your integrated master schedule, your critical path and schedule analysis, but it's also resource planning, it's your work breakdown structure and your organizational breakdown structure, it's cost estimating, and it's how you're going to really define your baseline. So many organizations, most organizations are doing project scheduling today. One of the things in earned value management that's really important is that we really need to build schedules with integrity, in that they don't have any artificial constraints, and that everything has a predecessor and successor, but also that all the information in all the work to be accomplished has been specified within the project schedule. In the middle of the screen, we have our EVM cost engine. So in the EVM cost engine, we're going to bring the information in from the project scheduling system, whether that's Microsoft Project or Primavera or OpenPlan. We're going to bring that together with your actual cost from your accounting system, your project accounting system, and below we can see whether or not that project accounting system is yours as a prime contractor or yours as a subcontractor, and you're reporting information to your prime contractor, or even potentially as a government. So that data is going to come together in the form of the actual cost that it required for you to complete the work, which was completed in the prior period. So that information comes together with the project schedule, the updated project schedule in your EVM cost engine. On the right-hand side is earned value management analysis and reporting. Many times organizations will have a separate analysis and reporting system in which they will distribute information to their control account managers, enable their ability to do variance reporting, look at corrective actions, or recovering planning. And then across the top, oftentimes we have project dashboards and have also implemented a means in which we can collaborate on the information that comes out of the various systems. And maybe that's workflow automated. So there are a number of different tools out in the market that can help with that. When we look at traditionally implementing an earned value management system is done in-house. So you buy these various tools and you implement them in-house. At the top on the bullet points are some of the areas in which you want to consider, things that will have to be accomplished. One is you probably are going to need to train people on earned value management as a concept, both management and program personnel. It's important that although there are people in the organization that have a strong background in earned value management, that there's a common language for earned value management. So when you talk, when management talks with program or program personnel talks amongst themselves, everybody's talking about the same thing. We have a common language. We know the terminology. We know how to interpret the system. We know how the system is supposed to work. And then one of the things that you want to consider in your implementation is EVM system design. The system design is not just the technical system, but the processes in which we're going to utilize the EVMS. And those would be, how am I going to status my projects? How am I going to manage change within those projects? How am I going to update actuals? How am I going to validate the data in the system? So that requires also a data design, both schedule and cost data. So I need to design how I want that information to look, and really a lot of times that starts with the reporting. We start with the reporting and then we back up into the data design. Just check my time. Okay, 2:26. The next thing we want to consider is software implementation, configuration, and pilot. So we want to install the software. It needs to be configured for our system, for our company, for our organization, and for our program. And I want to conduct a pilot. We suggest doing a pilot, testing a subset of the data all the way through to the reporting, and then validating that reporting looks like we think it should look, and everything is working accordingly. I'm then going to want to do EVMS tool training, so I need to train my program teams and my project controls people and potentially my control account managers on how to utilize the tools. I need to develop my performance measurement baseline, and I need to start doing my monthly reporting and variance analysis. Now, along with this, additional requirements include conducting an integrated baseline review and potentially certification if you're one of those projects that's over $50 million. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges to implementing an earned value management system. One is, what is the tool challenges? I want to look at the tool challenges first. One of the things is oftentimes we have a disparate desktop implementation of multiple components of the architecture. Oftentimes the project management systems are Microsoft projects sitting on somebody's desktop, possibly running Microsoft Project Server in a client server environment. or Primavera in a client-server environment, and maintenance of these various desktop tools and version differences between the software tools. Are you running Microsoft Project 2007, 2010, or what have you, is a challenge. And then configuration management of these various disparate tools. Data management is one of the other tool challenges. Oftentimes data is manually inputted, or you've created custom imports for each component to each desktop. So a lot of times we're looking at who's got the latest version of the project file or the results file. Now when we look at process challenges of a traditional, by traditional, as I said before, I'm really talking about an in-house standard. We're going to install an earned value management system within our organization. Once again, disparate desktop tools, desktop implementations creates some issues. Relying on a sneaker net or email to transfer data, limited visibility to where we are in the monthly process. A lot of times we don't really even know what stage are we in towards delivering our customer reporting. Little, if any, capability to automate common business process workflows. Well, it's awful difficult to automate business processes if I have a disparate environment. Difficult to implement and enforce standards, difficult to document and maintain compliance. And then the third element is, what are the people challenges of a traditional deployment? Well, we need to have a system admin or a super user for each component of the architecture. So, I need to have my super user to maintain Primavera, my Primavera application, or I need to have my super user to maintain my Deltek Cobra earned value management cost engine, or my Winsight analysis and reporting. So there's a lot of overhead and challenge in finding and retaining these qualified personnel. Not just the system users, but your qualified project schedulers, project controls personnel, and control account managers. The final one is this: training these personnel. So I found them. I'm working on retaining these qualified personnel, but I also I have to address training these personnel in the latest versions of software tools and the organization's business processes. Let me just summarize a couple of areas in terms of traditional in-house EVMS implementation. Typically, it's characterized by a lot of capital expenditures. So I have a lot of upfront costs for the EVM software and hardware, cost of hiring and training qualified resources. EVM implementations can be lengthy, and it's sometimes high risk. I have to design both the data and the processes, and I have to develop my performance measurement baseline and all of the other artifacts that go along with it. My organizational breakdown structure, my RAM or responsibility assignment matrix, my control account plans, CAPs, or my work authorization documents, or WADs. And then I have some challenges from earned value from operating the EVMS system. Many times what we find is that organizations spend way too much time maintaining the system and processing the system, tracking down data issues, and making sure the information is correct, and little or no time, which leaves little or no time for analysis. But so by the time I get the system updated and I validate all the data, it's time to produce the reports and send them off to the customer. So I really haven't any time to do any analysis. So change management is oftentimes a cumbersome and time-consuming process. Data quality control, software updates, and hardware maintenance are all challenges to the operation of the earned value management system. So the last agenda item is I want to look at earned value management software as a solution. So for those of you who may not be familiar with what a software as a service solution is a software as a service is a completely managed deployment of business software application. It's also known as on-demand software. And typically you are going to rent it versus buy it. So it's a pay-as-you-go model. You're not going to buy a bunch of licenses up front or buy the hardware and so forth. All of that is being maintained for you in the cloud, in a cloud-based, internet, browser-based environment, and you only pay for the licenses or the usage of the applications that you have. When we look at these, many of you are probably utilizing SaaS applications today. You may be using your Office or messaging software. We use Office 365 ourselves, and Outlook is all hosted by Microsoft in a SaaS environment. Oftentimes, organizations will use customer relationship management systems. Salesforce.com is probably the most popular, most well-known anyways. You may have your enterprise resource planning or your accounting software may be a cloud solution, or your payroll software. But one of the things that we see is there's a developing trend for SaaS project and earned value management software. So what are the benefits of moving to a SaaS model? Lower upfront capital investment for hardware and software, faster implementation with decreased risk, focus on core business capability rather than ancillary support services. So how is it that, what is it that our organization does to drive value? If we don't view our earned value management system or earned value management reporting to be a major competitive advantage, then we would be better served by focusing on our core business capability, which does drive value for the customer. And one of the interesting things about SaaS is it enables a level playing field for small or mid-sized companies. So no longer do you have to be a giant company to be able to support the deployment of an earned value management system. Now I'm going to look at this architecture again that we reviewed earlier, but I'm going to focus on just the area within the box. So really the EVM cost engine, EVM analysis and reporting, and the project dashboards. Now, one of the things about a EVMSaaS solution is your traditional implementation of the system. We know there's going to be some overhead in terms of the personnel required. Now, what I've attempted to do, and this isn't a perfect science, is just to give you an indication of the resource requirements for a typical, say, $25 million project with no subcontractors. Subcontractors do cause some additional work. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the full-time equivalent resources. So your project manager, he's not your dedicated EVM person, but he does have some overhead that's going to be required to make sure that the EVM system is being utilized properly, doing oversight of his project controls people, and then of course looking at the reporting. You're going to have a master scheduler who's responsible for developing the project schedule and maintaining the monthly status updates, and maintaining the project schedule. You're going to want to have a project controls person, so an EVMS administrator responsible for maintaining the performance measurement baseline, for the monthly processing, and for the reporting. You're going to want to have control account managers who are responsible for authorizing, maintaining the control account plans, doing work authorizations, conducting variance analysis, developing corrective actions, and managing budget change requests. I'm going to have some overhead for my finance organization for maintaining the project accounting information, and I'm going to have some overhead for my IT organization. Now, on the right-hand column, what I attempted to do is show the difference in this. And one of the things I just noticed, which is an error, is so your project manager overhead is a little bit less because in an EVM SaaS environment, or an EVMS production environment, the project manager has less overhead. He primarily just wants to make sure that the information is accurate and the reporting is being delivered and the variance analysis is being done adequately. The master scheduler still has the same amount of overhead. Your project controls people have the same amount of overhead. Your control account managers and everyone else. Finance organizations and the IT. So I just wanted to contrast what it takes to implement the system and what it would take to maintain the system. Now, in an EVM SaaS environment, I'm going to have a lower staffing requirements, principally in the area of project controls, because in an EVM SaaS environment, we're looking at effectively outsourcing that as part of our earned value management software as a service solution. So that project controls process would be managed by someone else. The control account managers would roughly have the same amount of overhead as well as the other parts of the organization. I want to just contrast some of those challenges in the EVM SaaS resolution. In-house challenges, a lot of capital expenditures for earned value management software and hardware cost maintenance. In a SaaS solution, I have operating expense, but no upfront cost, only a monthly subscription. In-house challenge, cost of hiring, training qualified earned value management project controls people. In an EVM SaaS resolution, no need to hire or train specialized EVM resources. In the in-house, long implementation lead times and high risk on the EVM SaaS solution. We're delivering a turnkey EVM system designed really for a rapid deployment and low risk. And then the EVMS operation, too much time processing the system, not enough time in analyzing. And the EVM SaaS solution enables more time for your control account managers to be analyzing the data. Now I want to talk a little bit about KM Systems Group's Earned Value Management Software as a Service solution. So this is a fully managed software as a service solution. So we're going to manage everything within that box I showed you earlier, your cost EVM engine, the analysis and reporting system, and potentially even the EVM reporting dashboards. We're going to provide a turnkey system. We provide an already architected solution and processes, and people that are experienced with both earned value management as well as experts with the software. What your organization is going to provide is your master scheduler, your project organization is going to develop the project schedule, maintain the project schedule, develop and maintain the project budget and resource assignments, and it's going to track actual project costs. So what we do is we work with you to develop a timeline during the course of the month that is going to meet your customer's reporting requirements. So if your reporting requirement is 14 days after the close of the prior accounting period, then we're going to work with your organization to ensure that the process will guarantee the delivery to your customer within that time frame. So we have 3 levels to our SaaS solution. I'm going to start with the bottom level. The bronze earned value management system. We're going to develop your performance measurement baseline and all the related artifacts, the control account plans, the work authorization documents, responsibility assignment matrix, and so forth, as well as produce your customer performance reporting. So the bronze EVMS is really for organizations to say, look, I just really want to provide the minimum amount of reporting that I need to satisfy my EVM reporting requirement. The silver EVMS, we're going to do the things that we just said in the bronze and develop the performance measurement baseline, provide an EVM system description document, which you would need to provide your government customer to demonstrate that you have an ANSI 748 compliant system. We're going to produce the customer performance reports, but all the formats. But we're also going to provide program management reports as well as input for your variance analysis and statistical estimates at completion. So those are really reporting that is designed to help your management organization understand what's going on within the project and enable a much more interactive process. And then the third level is the gold EVMS. We're going to do all of those things we just mentioned in the bronze and the silver, but we're also going to enable performance dashboards for control account managers and program managers, and we're also going to give them access to online access to those performance dashboards, ability to conduct and manage their variance analysis online and conduct their estimates at completions analysis and so forth. So those are the three levels of KM Systems Group's EVM SaaS solution. I'll just show you a couple of screenshots. This is nothing specific to our solution. This is the standard integrated program management report format, one that we talked about earlier, which is the work breakdown structure. So this would be effectively what would be delivered to your customer. This is a CAM dashboard. On the left-hand side, this happens to be based on the Encore Analytics Empower solution, one of the analysis and reporting tools that we have a lot of experience with. And this is kind of neat because I have on the left-hand, the top quadrant here across the top, I can see my work breakdown structure, and I'm on element 2200. My user estimate at completion is 314,300. The description is system engineering, and I can see how that fares. DQI is a data quality indicator, so there's a data quality issue that I'm going to want to look at. For my schedule variance or SV column there, I can see that it's green, so that's good, and it's the little arrow is going left to right, so that means it's unchanged from the prior reporting period. My cost variance, though, is getting worse. My cost variance has decreased since the last reporting period, and I'm in the red, so I'm going to need to conduct a variance analysis on that. And my variance and completion is unchanged. Sorry, I didn't mean to change that. On the left-hand side, I see a cumulative variance chart for my schedule, cost, and variance at completion. And on the right-hand side is an artificial intelligence narrative report. So this is a report that is machine-generated based on the data. The machine is interpreting the data and then providing a narrative that the CAM can review and potentially even borrow from for their variance analysis. Now, when they go to conduct their variance analysis, they can do it right in the Empower system. And here I can see my element of cost is the 3,400. My control account manager is Zepka. I can see my schedule variance, current period, and cumulative to date. My percentage, schedule variance percentage, my cost variance percentage, my variance at completion, and so forth. I would need to, the control account manager is going to need to do several things, and they can input those directly into this screen. They need to explain the cause for the variance. They need to explain below that, you can't see it on this particular screenshot, the impact on the immediate task and the project. And then they have to also provide a corrective action plan, which they can put right into this particular screen. Now, program management dashboards. Here we see a screenshot similar to the previous one, but much more higher level information that the program managers would typically want to look at. In the left-hand side, we see my estimates at completion. The maroon bar is my I'll start with the left-hand side. BEAC, budget at completion, is the navy bar in each period. So that was the budget. The olive color is the CPI forecast. Maroon is the estimate of completion developed by the CAMs and the program team. And then on the purple bar is the CPI times SPI forecast. So that's a statistical forecast. So we can see that in most periods, in the early days anyways, the forecast, the statistical forecast, the CPI forecast, and the purple bar, the CPI and SPI forecast, that's a machine-generated forecast, says that they were anticipating the effort to cost a lot more than the project teams. However, as we move forward in time to January 04, we can see that it's actually settled down significantly, and that the statistical forecast or the independent estimates at completion are consistent with the program team's estimate at completion. This shows what we call an EAC Realism, or Estimate at Completion Realism chart, and then a narrative that goes along with that. Once again, that's been generated by the Empower system. So that's really all I plan to cover today. Hopefully this has been informative for you. So just to summarize, we talked about some of the regulations and how those regulations impact your requirement to implement an earned value management system on your contract. We talked about some of the challenges of implementing a traditional in-house earned value management system and some of the things that you would want to consider as an organization in doing that. And then we also talked about an earned value management software as a solution, which we believe addresses many of those challenges of a traditional earned value management implementation, but also is lower cost, lower risk, but will enable a better process for your organization. So I really appreciate your time at today's webinar. We've got about 10 minutes left in the hour. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those now. I will see if I can figure out how to take everybody's microphones off mute.